Well, greetings to everybody. Welcome to this episode of Hustler Stories. It's really special for me. Why? Because this hustler here is trying to solve the single plastic use for the world, right? What is Hustler Stories? It's a series where we try and introduce entrepreneurs and hustlers essentially who need to be more spoken about and perhaps are not so well covered in the mainstream media. We have today a very young and energetic hustler. Before I introduce you, Purav, to the world, I would like Purav to speak something about who he is, how did he get here, where is Purav from, right? So, yeah. And then we can perhaps move on to your work and how amazing that is.
Hi, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on the Hustler platform. My name is Purav Desai, as you rightly introduced me, and I'm the co-founder of Refillable, which is essentially solving the single-use plastic problem. And I think now with Shark Tank India also coming in, entrepreneurs are suddenly being celebrated rather than your parents being like, "Ab kya kar rahe ho?" Like take up a job and stuff like that. And it's great to see platforms like these, which are uh, giving more opportunities to entrepreneurs to share their story to young and upcoming people who I'm also young as well. So I've also been inspired by such stories. So it truly is an honor to be on a platform like this.
Right. So who's Purav? As in, where did you study? How did you get here? And since you're very young, I don't even want to mention your age, but guys, he's like under 25 barriers. So there is going to be tremendous explosion with the kind of work he's doing in the near future. So watch that out for. So yes, I'm sure everybody would love to hear how did you arrive here and what was your schooling, college, work related to you identifying this problem?
Sure. So I've been born and brought up in Mumbai. And like since childhood, I've been in Mumbai, and I've done my college from HR College of Commerce and Economics, where I was part of this club by the name of Rotra Club of HR College. So usually in your 11th and 12th, people usually waste a lot of time and do activities which are not very fruitful to going forward. But luckily I got into the Rotra Club of HR College, where we did a lot of social development activities, which gave us a lot of exposure to the problems out there in the market, how to go about solving them, raising funds for issues, and actually creating an impact. And that's where the small seed was sown that I want to do a business that is actually impactful while also keeping profits in mind, but is first impact first and then it is profit oriented. So that was actually a seed that was sown. And I used to also read a lot of entrepreneurs sharing their stories on platforms such as Your Story and other kind of platforms, where people were creating these companies which were creating impact but were also scaling up a lot. So that was essentially the starting point where I wanted to create a social enterprise which creates impact at scale. And luckily we were also part of a lot of big projects during the college times, where we built wells in the region of Maharashtra where there was no rain. So that also luckily won the world's best road track project. We also did a lot of fundraising activities and created chess competitions for the blind, etc., which was like nationally recognized. So
Wow.
yeah, that is a brief background of what I did in my college.
So any of these were previous startups that worked or didn't work out?
So after my 11 and 12, at the age of 17, I started my first startup, which was providing solar rooftop solutions to AAA rated companies without putting any investment up front by the company themselves. So I partnered with a US-based company where the funds were provided to these companies, and they could install solar power plants and get a discount on the actual electricity rate that was coming. So it was good for the planet and good for the pocket as well, which has actually carried on to what I'm doing right now as well. But it started off at the age of 17.
Wow.
So essentially, that's where we started. And that's where, again, I got a lot of exposure where I was meeting high-level executives, meeting government authorities, meeting the biggest of educational institutions, etc. So that gave me a lot of exposure. But it didn't work out in the way that I wanted it to, because there I realized that there was a lot of talk happening but not much action on ground, and that frustrated me a lot. So that is something that, of course, started my business journey but didn't like soar up to the heights where, of course, anyone would vision when they start a business.
I think restlessness is a common trait with all of us hustlers, right? We need to get some output or gratification in a shorter span of time, and that's why perhaps success is a lot more easily accessible, I would say. So what happened? Why it? I mean, we understand why it didn't work. You had a lot of learnings. Have any of those learnings been relevant to your current startup, or how you could sort of learn? Take certain feedback from it to make Refillable much better organization?
Sure. Yeah. So a few learnings are that ideas are great, but execution is what matters at the end of the day. So although like you're having these high level talks and you're having talks about implementing projects at a large scale, etc., but if it's not the implementation doesn't start, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So that's a very key learning that I learned out of this startup, that you need to implement fast, execute fast, to scale up much faster and actually create some impact going forward. And so of course, like a lot of projects might not get you immediate results. Like there are multiple projects that have long gestation periods, but there need to be small wins along the journey as well, because if you like are stuck at it and you see that there is no headway around that, you don't want that. You want to keep the momentum going and have smaller wins towards your larger goal. So that is something that that actually created like a thought in my mind, that that Indian jugaad is very instrumental. Like start
Right.
makes stuff happen. It shouldn't be perfect, just make stuff happen, implement it to ground, and then you can go towards perfection as well. If we go towards perfection, then the project doesn't go on ground as well.
No, that's right, man. Those small winnings are so important to keep exciting us and, continuously build better innovation. So, what I understand, creativity is just putting ideas together. Innovation is executing those ideas. And you did precisely that with Refillable. And why I'm saying that is, and when I said earlier, it's very close to my heart. And I'm sure hundreds and millions of other people thought about the simple problem of single-use plastic, right? Such a simple solution, but I mean, nobody could execute it until now, and you came and you figured it out, and you actually got paying customers. I mean, validation, product market fit, everything is right in order. So let you tell us about now Refillable, coming to the main topic, and what is happening at Refillable. Do you have co-founders? How do you guys got about doing it? How long you've been doing it?
Right. So, in terms of between the first startup and between Refillable as well, we started off in 2018 when Maharashtra banned single-use plastic. And of course, I have co-founders. We met in the Rotary Club of HR College that I mentioned earlier. So one co-founder is my age. The second one is 3 years elder to us. Uh, we we have been working together in the Rotary Club. We know each other since the last 8 to 9 years now. So we've been working together since that time. So in 2018, when single-use plastic ban was announced in Maharashtra, we saw that there was a lot of misinformation in the market. People were shifting from plastic to paper, from paper to compostable packaging became the new fad. And without understanding the entire life cycle of the packaging, which is essentially, if you're using paper, you're cutting down trees. If you're using paper cups, you have a plastic lining inside of it where the paper cups cannot be recycled again. And if you're using compostable packaging, you need to have industrial composting facilities, which India yet doesn't have. So you need to understand the entire life cycle before just going out with the flow, because what you intend to do with the right intention turns out to be more hurtful to the environment. So without understanding that, because there was no awareness in the market, people started just doing it because for the sake of it. And that's where we saw a gap in the market. That's where we saw an opportunity to actually create impact. And we started off first in the food and beverage industry, where we saw that there was a gap in the market in terms of food delivery, which is coming up now that we know the drastic increase in packaging that is there with food delivery, etc.
Yeah.
We manufactured reusable packaging made out of crop waste. We collected all of this packaging bags, sterilized it, again put it back into the system. So effectively, any packaging that you use multiple times is much more beneficial to any other kind of single-use packaging. So it's not just single-use plastic packaging that is an issue, it's single-use packaging as a whole that is an issue. So
There's
we
another
need to think of,
example, I think, where you actually got into a festival and you managed to reduce that. So, want to sort of
right.
introduce that as well, because
Yeah.
rest of the
So
other information was mind blowing right now, and I'm sure for the audience,
right.
everybody would think why paper is a better packaging material, and suddenly, wow, I've cut down 10 trees just to buy a
Right.
sustainable cloth. So it's redundant. So, yeah,
Right.
coming back to your story on the festival.
Right. So during this period, we saw that these large scale events, and which also like started like that's where refillable also kind of started off at events also. So in terms of with these large scale events where 50-60,000 people were coming in a span of 2 to 3 days, where they were using plastic bottles, 4 plastic bottles during one day, and
Yeah.
over the period of 3 days, that is equivalent to more than 2 lakh plastic bottles per event, which essentially was a mind-boggling waste, because
Yeah.
you're creating waste. You're just sipping water over a span of like 3 minutes and just throwing away that packaging away, which is like just a magnanimous waste. So
Yep.
there we saw an opportunity where we set up these refill stations that had water inside of them, and people were encouraged to get their own bottles to refill it. And if they didn't have their own bottles, we provided with reusable packaging, which they could take at a refundable deposit, refill that water for free after paying the deposit for the packaging. And if they return that packaging back, they get their deposit back. So it was just a very simple idea, and
Wow.
which actually created a lot of impact across festivals. Unluckily, due to COVID, it kind of had to come to a standstill because large scale events uh, got like stopped. But yeah, that was the kind of impact that we had by creating reusable systems, refillable systems, etc., which led to refillable in 2020 during COVID.
Okay, so what is that? I mean, now the anchor of the interview today. Yeah, let's hear. So, what
Yeah.
are you doing at Refillable now? And I'm sure, I mean, I've spoken to people already before, like interviewing you, and everybody has, especially in Bombay area, such amazing experiences to share. And I wish I could share all of them. But in a way, they are so very happy that a little of their efforts by reducing their cost and efforts. In fact, it's not an effort. They don't have to go to markets anymore. They feel good. They save money, and there are thousands of people in this line. So, what are you guys doing for people to feel so good and save money? Yeah.
I think you put it very well. So in COVID, we saw that people couldn't venture out. So everything was shifting to online delivery, and the usage of home care products like your cleanliness and hygiene came to a higher level. So people started buying everything, all the liquids in plastic packaging. So essentially, there's a report by Earthfire that 67% of plastic packaging has been increased after COVID. So essentially, we've like our work has increased a lot because of the plastic consumption that has increased. So just think about it. Whenever you order something online, essentially you're calling for a hand wash online. It comes in a plastic pouch. It comes wrapped in a bubble wrap for some reason to give it safety. Then it comes in a carton. So essentially, for that liquid which is inside, you are creating so much packaging waste, which is unwarranted. You need the liquid that is inside. You don't need the packaging that comes along with it. So that led to Refillable, that essentially combines the environmental benefit of a refill station to the convenience of online delivery. With what we did was set up a mobile refill truck that goes to the customer's doorstep, refills the liquids in their own packaging themselves, and allows them to get those same products at lesser cost than the MRP itself. So that essentially is Refillable, which is a zero waste delivery platform eliminating single-use plastic packaging.
Wow, so simple yet so effective, right? Like all of us imagine that, I should not have to refill my shampoo. I mean, my detergent. It should just
100%.
refill at my house or
Yeah,
at the store, and it's now a reality.
correct.
So, so what next for Refillable? I mean, where do we see it at the end of this year, or perhaps in a time frame that you have planned with your team?
So right now we are in Mumbai. We are catering to over 1,200 plus families in Mumbai. Um, so as of now, we have like multiple categories of home care liquids. We soon hope to have personal care liquids also onto our platform, like shampoo, body wash, etc. Because there's a large consumption. Apart from that, now we are also tying up with organic stores to help the people who are already ordering the liquids that they like to get it in a plastic-free format. So that is something. Now we are looking to expand outside of Mumbai as well. So we are in talks with multiple partners in Bangalore, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Jodhpur, different. So what we've also noticed is that it's not just limited to major metro cities. The interest that we are garnering is coming out from tier 3, tier 4 cities as well. So the impact that we can create is not just limited to all your major cities that is usually there. So that is something that we are looking at. Apart from that, just to give you a small insight, which has not been released publicly yet, we are also going to be backed by major investors from in the climate space from New York. So that's some good news, which actually gives us a chance to make reuse and refill more scalable, more accessible to all the people that we want to reach out to. So it's not just limited to the few people that is there. So yeah, thank you so much. And we are also experimenting with different formats, different ways to scale up much faster. So soon you'll see very interesting new formats that will come up, which will help us reach out to not just Mumbai people, but different people outside of Mumbai as well. So the entire point is to make the model much more scalable so that it can reach out to as many people as fast as possible. So the people who believe in this journey can join us in a quicker format and can create impact through Refillable.
So, tough question now. What challenges do you guys see in terms of creating this impact? I'm sure there are business challenges always, but more than that, what is that from your perspective in terms of creating holistic impact that you will see in Indian context particularly?
Sure. So majorly it's the awareness challenge. So people, it's the awareness challenge, and so people still don't understand why you should reduce plastic packaging, or why you should reuse plastic packaging. They have an idea, but it is not in their priorities. People have like multiple different priorities, and all that. Environment is not a major priority for a lot of people in the Indian context. So they're like, okay, whatever, in terms of I will take it because like I just want to take it. I don't want to take that hassle of ordering from a different platform, although we are coming to the doorstep. So these things kind of slow down your progress, but slowly and steadily people are understanding why we are doing what we are doing. So majorly it's an awareness problem that we are facing at this stage.
All right. In future, what do you see as the challenges in terms of scaling or adaptation, or in terms of overall environmental and social impact?
Sure. So in terms of, if you look at an Amazon, or if you look at other platforms, they deliver more than 6,000, 7,000 SKUs. So for people, like any person, they go to one platform and they can like that platform caters to all of our needs. We are limited by the number of SKUs that we can cater to. So right now we are in home care. Slowly we'll get into personal care and packet foods as well. But we will be limited by a certain segment of SKUs that are there. So to increase in terms of stock viability, that is something that we are focusing on. So that is the number of SKUs. Secondly, platforms such as Blinkit and Zepto, which are delivering within 10 minutes. That is something which we feel is not sustainable, because at the end of the day, you're ordering just a couple of items, which is reaching to you within 8 minutes or so. It's not a sustainable, but they are scaling up in a much rapid manner. So these are two major challenges that we see. And thirdly is that environment has to take center stage as well. So although we are our benefits is that we are cheaper than MRP, we are also providing doorstep delivery and all of that. Environment also needs to take a center stage. As of now, it is not the center stage that is catering to people. So these are a few challenges that we envision going forward. And of course, in terms of scaling up, a lot of business risks are also attached to it, like the investment, return on investment, profitability, and all the other things that come along with scaling up.
So once you said about quick delivery, and I completely understand your customers in your audience are already perhaps your early adopters, are those who are conscious in some sense. So they're aware also in terms of how much liquid they have in the house for which they might need it next week, and they're able to pre-order and preempt it. At least I'm personally aware what I have in my house, and before it gets over, I'm able to plan that. And I don't think that's such a difficult thing that I would need something in 10 minutes. And perhaps that's not even your audience right now, and it should not be. I mean, in future,
And in
let
spite,
them.
so we also provide like next day delivery. So that is not something that
Wow.
should be an issue to a lot of people.
And I'm sure as you guys scale your delivery timelines and accessibility to various housing societies, all of that in metros will become easier. All right.
100%.
So I think so. Refillable is onto world domination, at least metro city domination in India. Wherever the
Thank
concentrations are high, you can really create a large impact. And with the population in these cities, I think that itself, the data itself, will be very positive for you guys and for the environment. So, Matt, I want to thank you sincerely for taking this time out. Uh, Wearing a shirt and doing this on a Saturday. It really means a lot to me, and I'm sure a lot of audience members who will see this episode will be benefiting from some of the mind-blowing facts, right? Like that came through the interview. So, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's actually an kind of a thing that, you know, an entrepreneur is working on a Saturday with a shirt, because just to show people that you need to work on Saturdays as well. But although after this interview, you might not know, I just might go out for a quick lunch as well.
And a game of football, perhaps.
And a game of football, course. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.